George, Bevan writes in to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com, just like you can, and she says, guys, have you seen KNEECAP? It was showing at a few festivals and was wondering if you guys had gotten the chance to see it yet. I'm heading to the Irish cinema premiere on Wednesday, this was a couple of weeks ago, and I'd be really intrigued to hear your thoughts on it when you do get a chance. It's Ireland's nomination for Best International Feature for the Oscars this year, which is great, as the film is predominantly in the Irish language. Bevan's very well connected. She seems like she's going to premieres and screenings. She's kind of a big name on campus of
the Irish film industry.
The Irish film industry. She's going places. We're watching you, Bevan. George, we have seen KNEECAP.
I look forward to go to the Irish Oscars as a special guest.
Yeah. Hosting. We've both seen KNEECAP.
Yes, we have both seen KNEECAP now, which is great. A lot of buzz around it. We received a couple of emails about it, including Bevan's beforehand, which we'll read out. And I was chatting to someone on Friday night, and they said, "Oh, I caught a double bill, and one of the films I saw was KNEECAP. I think this is Lloyd. If you're listening, nice to meet you." And he said, "Yeah, you got to check it out." I said, "Okay, I'll make time. We'll do it."
So it's directed and co-written by Rich Pepiat, who's done Short Backseat Driver, a series called Super Shoppers, but nothing I've seen. And it is written by the members of the real-life Northern Irish band KNEECAP.
Yeah.
This story is set in the period leading up to 2017, where there was a point of contention of the Irish Language Act as to whether or not they were going to continue to acknowledge Irish as a language, and this created a huge amount of debate and divided a lot of people in Northern Ireland, of which only 8,000 people, I think, or maybe at the time the film was set, were speaking that language. And one of our characters in this film is JJ, who is a school teacher who tries to teach Irish to a school in Northern Ireland, but it's not very good, because all of the textbooks are writing about farming and old things that nobody ever talks about. What the kids are really into is hip hop. He also sort of moonlights as an Irish language interpreter, and he
I think so.
By
almost
accident.
I almost thought it was just that one time, and then he just kind of gets pulled in through
his wife
circumstances.
is sort of
a
political activist for sort of
Irish language rights.
For sort of keeping the Irish language rights and protecting the language. And in the middle of the night, gets drawn in to be an interpreter for Mo, who has been held up by the police, is refusing to speak English to the chief of police, and he's brought in to sort of interpret, and he discovers this notebook, of which there's like a whole tab of acid in one of the pages, but also are lyrics written in Irish language that are rhyming and are parts of that are just basically like rhymed poems. And he manages to get a hold of this diary, and in his garage starts producing beats and raps to the verses written to rap with it. Nisha and Mo are friends who are very much into the party raving scene. They deal drugs, much to the dismay of their parents. And Nisha's father, played by Michael Fassbender, was a person who fought in the Troubles and who at one point faked his death in order to run away from the police, and always raised them to speak in the Irish language. And he said something like, every word of Irish spelt is a bullet in the fight against the British.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's important.
Every single Irish word spoken.
Word spoken. And so what ends up happening is that they start to play very small gigs, and through social media and like a growing sort of prevalence of people being aware of their music in the town, it spreads to this musically politicized movement to protect the Irish language. And JJ starts realizing that the young kids that he's teaching are discovering the music that he has produced. He wears a woolen balaclava of the Republic of Ireland flag, and it's very politicized music. It's a real story about how hip hop culture for African Americans was seen as this counter protest to mainstream culture. And they were saying, well, why can't this work for Northern Ireland? There's definitely elements of sort of cult music classic. It's actually one of the better music biopics I've seen in a long time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, to bring up that conversation.
Because also we should say they're playing. This is a real life story,
and these guys are playing themselves. It's based on a true story. Elements of train spotting in there.
Yeah, totally.
But George, KNEECAP, how did you get on with it?
I thought it was wonderful. What a wonderful movie. And even though that sounds like a lot of setup and plot and exposition, and like it's a very, very specific story, but like it's so interesting and so refreshing. It's people, it's politics, it's culture, it's history, it's identity, and it's rendered in this very, very specific story, which I love. I love the fact you're pulled into this incredibly complex history and complex culture, but like you're fully informed in it, and it's just a wonderful use of film, the medium of film and music, to take a hugely complex issue, which is basically the history of Northern Ireland and the history of Ireland as well, the relationship between the two, and the history of the relationship with Britain as well over hundreds of years, and deliver that in a way that's through comedy and music, and is insightful and cheeky and funny and energetic. And I mean, honestly, you said Trainspotting there were moments I thought, wow, this has the real energy of Trainspotting,
like cult classic.
Yeah, immediate. A real cult classic. It's funny, it's mean, it's serious, but also it's got this little twinkle in its eye. It's a bit like the music they make, which is kind of in your face, but also with a little rise.
Music, by the way, very aggressive, very sort of lots of references to drugs and sex.
And I think I'm no scholar of Northern Irish and Irish history. But
had you heard of them, by the way, KNEECAP?
KNEECAP, no, I haven't. Never heard of them.
I'd heard of their presence at Glastonbury. I've always heard that they did really good sets, but I'd never encountered them just because you don't always get around to see it.
But I'm no scholar of this particular chapter of history. But like even I could pick up on and follow the beats of the story. But I do wonder as well, like more internationally, how people will follow this, because there are words and language used that we as English people can pick up and understand because we're adjacent to the history. But just really fun, and honestly, the fact that they play themselves is a marvel, because
and they're brilliant.
If you'd said to me, if the thing came up at the end and showed the real KNEECAP and been like, oh, these actors played these people, I would have believed it.
And then the film in the credits, it shows them like playing to huge music festivals, shots of them at Glastonbury, shots of them performing to like sold out arenas, and it really I wonder, because it's them as well that you've seen in the film for the last 100 minutes. You're like, oh my god, there they are doing it. It really adds to it, and they're brilliant playing themselves.
They're so good, and this idea, I love it. Like, on the face of it, it's a story about people trying to start a band. It's a hip hop trio, but it's not. It's about how much language is tied to your identity. About it's kind of like post-colonial arguments about the legacy of Britain's history and the effect on the island of Ireland, and just so brilliant to see it. A movie 80% of which is like in the Irish language.
Yeah.
And a lovely, discreet, minimal side performance by Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Who doesn't intrude on it with his star power.
Yeah.
Oh, kills it always.
Absolutely
always
nails
kills
it. It's brilliant.
But just enough on the side bit. I think there's moments that are really funny. I think it's really one of the most interesting films this year.
I absolutely loved it. I said it's probably the best biopic I've seen in a really long time. Musical biopic, about like telling a story.
Because it's about something bigger, isn't it?
It's about something bigger. What I really loved is how it captured the sense that they called themselves, they were the ceasefire generation. They themselves didn't fight in the Troubles, but they nonetheless inherit the paranoia and the anxiety that came with that, and it still forms a huge part of their identity. And it wasn't necessarily their fight, but nonetheless they take on the burden, and their way of expressing that is through music, and their way of being active and expressing their identity. And I think that was so wonderfully captured. That sense, I think, would be really hard to articulate for a film. And it actually made me think of Armageddon Time with Anthony Hopkins and Jeremy Strong and Anne Hathaway, about not being about
like
the Holocaust or Reagan's America, but you see the baggage of history being carried from the characters it's actually about, which in that case was about kids, or in this case it's about these young people. I thought it was so wicked smart and vibrant and quippy and funny. The editing's brilliant. The lyrics, when the songs are spoken in native Irish, they're written out in white lines of cocaine or ketamine, and it's just part of their personality. And it's just fantastic. I actually left the screening and texted 3 of my mates who aren't hugely into films, being like, I think you'll really like this. It's a really approachable film. If you find, I don't know, some other films a bit stuffy and boring, and maybe you're not into the idea of like a stuffy history film about Irish conflict, Northern Irish conflict, I think this is really, really up the street.
Because I agree with everything you just said, but there's also this great subplot about his Mo's relationship with women, about how like whenever he sleeps with women who have a Union Jack in their bedroom and have a picture of the Queen, like very much British culture informed, like, and it's like really, really funny, and like that's a great way of having that debate, that conversation about stuff that's still really serious and really important. I learned more about Belfast in this than the movie Belfast.
100%.
Like, Kenneth Branagh's movie Belfast seems so indulgent, safe, cookie cutter bullshit, frankly, like, and completely indulgent, and just what I love, this movie opens with, it says
car bombs.
Literally says every movie about story about Belfast begins the same way, and
5
it's
shots
troubles.
of
But,
things,
and he says, not this one though.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. And I've
Because
learned,
it's adjacent to it. It's actually not about the troubles itself. It's about the generation afterwards.
and it's really, really interesting and educational, and like it's so exciting.
A little bit nasty as well.
Yeah, oh god, yeah, there's some real nastiness and meanness.
The performances are just fantastic. There was I never got a sense that, well, they're not actors. They're sort of
Never.
Granted, they're playing themselves, but I thought all of them just brilliant, and they're able to match Michael Fassbender when he turns up.
Oh yeah,
God, Fassbender's good.
There's a great sort of. I don't want to talk too much about it, but there's a scene, the phone box scene.
Yes.
And this great little juxtaposition with Fassbender and Nisha. Great moments of humour. I mean, we kind of was diffusive about it. I mean, did you find it maybe went on a bit too long, perhaps? I mean, it's only an hour and 45, but
it didn't. But
okay, fine. Yeah, maybe that was just me. But I on the whole, yeah, great thumbs up. Really exciting, really different. If you want something that's new, anyway,
it's about so many things like music and culture and protest, and how like the more you try
really
to
sink your teeth into this,
the more you, because there's one really big part of the film is that because so much of their music is referencing drugs and violence, the movement itself didn't want that to become the poster child of protecting the Irish language, because it's not actually the best representation of what we want to maintain. Yeah. But it was almost this idea: the more you try and suppress an idea, the more you try and subdue it, the more prevalent it becomes, and it's still about like times evolving, culture evolving.
And JJ, the teacher, uses this example. He says like Irish language is just like this sort of old thing that's being preserved, like a dodo, like the last dodo. It's behind glass, and everyone looks at it and sort of moves on. But it's like we want to be able to expand it and use it, and and then I kind of, there's this line in the movie where it says like, language builds stories, stories build like country, nations, and nations build people, or something like that. It's brilliant. We've had a couple of emails about KNEECAP as well, because people are really passionate about it. This first one is from Jacob, who says, hi, James and George and James. Just a quick one from a long-time listener to say, how much I love the pod, and always look forward to sitting down and listening to your thoughts and feelings about all things film and TV. Thank you. It really does feel like sitting down with two friends and having a good old chat and about our favourite pastime. So long may it continue. Thank you. He says, I'm halfway through episode 139 when you mentioned a tendency for August to be a bad month for film releases. While I tend to agree with you, I wanted to let you know about an absolute scorcher I saw last week. As an Odeon Limitless member, other cinemas are available, I got to attend a screen unseen event. Again, it's like with the Cuckoo review as well. You get these mystery ones. Which for those who don't know is a chance to see an upcoming release early, but the catch is that you don't know what it's going to be. Nice. I was initially concerned when the title came up saying KNEECAP, which is a film I've heard or seen absolutely nothing about, not knowing what to expect, but I was absolutely blown away by this scintillating, joyful, and surprisingly political film. Yeah. Set in Belfast, the story follows two guys in the early 20s, as we just talked about. It is a vivid and truly entertaining journey about absolutely fizzing with energy and delivered with a real distinct style. It is full of solid performances, direction, cinematography, and dialogue, and while it is mostly presented as a light-hearted film that is easy to consume, it is driven by a deeply political story of culture, language, and identity in modern-day Northern Ireland. I cannot recommend it enough, and I think it would make an excellent companion piece to the BBC docuseries Once Upon a Time in Northern Ireland. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on KNEECAP. If you get a chance to see it, keep up the good work. Jacob from Coventry.
Adam also writes in and says, hi, James and George. I hope you guys are well. Loving the pod as usual, and it was great to see you both at the quiz. Likewise.
Yes.
I thought I'd share my thoughts on KNEECAP after I believe Bevan mentioned it in an email last episode. Loving this email, just symbiosis, that the sirens are leading into each other.
So we had already read out Bevan's email then.
Yeah, that was good. It's a fantastic... Oh, yeah.
You read it out twice.
It's a fantastic musical comedy biopic about a hip-hop trio from Belfast. They rap in their native Irish language to make a statement and defend the use of it, despite the language being banned and heavily politicised. I saw it as a screen unseen a few weeks ago. Everyone where was our invite? And the audience was almost completely full. Not a minute goes without a laugh, and the music will have you bouncing in your seat. There's a really cheeky, unique flair to KNEECAP via its kinetic visuals and hilarious voiceover. What really brings it all together is the sincerity it treats the story with. I left the showing feeling creatively inspired and appreciated the powerful theme of reclaiming and celebrating heritage. Michaal Fassbender is in there, but the three leads are excellent. Yes. I was amazed to learn that KNEECAP members are all playing themselves. Yeah. You'd think they were professional actors. Sorry for the long email. You two are smashing it. All the best. Adam.
Excellent. I mean, it really is. You can hear James and I talk about it. We're really fired up about it. It is just one of those things you see something very refreshing and new and exciting. And again, being able to talk about really serious things is such a fun, exciting way. And also, even though we're not connected to the story, but I'm sure, like, from a Northern Irish perspective, what a great way about, talking about culture and history in a new way, moving the conversation on.
Cinema is a tool to get people to understand that so much better, especially in a modern context. 'Cause people's knowledge of it might be actually sort of slightly backdated.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think our generation is quite interesting as well, because, like, we grew up just, we were Good Friday Agreement signed 1998. We're kind of like 97, was it? But either way, we are post generation, and so I think it's very much something I hear my parents talk about, but not something we've actually ever encountered. We've just kind of accepted as the status quo. But yeah, really, really great.
Really good, guys. Did you say the email? Send us your thoughts. hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. Moving on.
Yeah.